Good afternoon, everybody. We're so glad that you decided to spend the afternoon with us. We had an amazing session this morning with Cameron from AVOD 3. He taught me so much. I took lots of notes, and I hope you were able to be there. If you weren't, don't worry. We're sending out the recordings of all these sessions so you can go back and pick out the highlights and share things with your colleagues. My name is Sherry Jones, and I'm an independent meeting planner here in Northwest Arkansas. And I am honored to be part of your afternoon, as well as to be part of this 3-day event that we've had. It's just been amazing. Thank you all for participating. And I have loved the format being 3 days versus 6 hours in 1 day. That's been really a positive thing that I'm going to use in client meetings from here on out for sure. We have 120 people that have registered, so that's exciting. They're coming from Seattle to New Jersey and all the states in between. So we've been able to reach a lot more people by going virtually. As well as I want to thank the Walton Conference Hub for hosting this meeting. Being complimentary is a big deal to me personally. It feels like a thank you to those of us in the hospitality industry. I also want to thank the Arkansas Hospitality Association and AVOD 3 for their sponsorship as well. A few housekeeping things. Just remember this is being recorded, so we'll send that out after the event. And I'm monitoring the chats. So any questions you have along the way, I will share them at the very end and get answered by our wonderful speaker that we have. One thing I want to share with you, a quote from Maya Angelou, because time management is such a big deal. Since time is one immaterial object which we can't influence, nor speed up, nor slow down, nor diminish, it is an imponderably valuable gift. And that is for sure. And Laurie Malloy, I want to introduce you. Please tell us a little bit about yourself, but we know that time is a gift, and you're going to show us how to do it.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to this. So just briefly about myself, for those of you that don't know, I am from Northwest Arkansas. My dad moved us here when I was 2 and grew up here. And then my husband, because of his career, we ended up moving away from Northwest Arkansas for 25 years, and we came back. That's how much we love the area. And so in 2010, I started a business, and I am excited. This is one of my passions. I love sharing about reframing time management, how you can look at it kind of in a different way. And I hope that you'll come with just an open mind and a different perspective from someone who previously was a professional organizer, who's also a credentialed ICF coach. So I've seen the mental and the physical clutter, and I see what holds people back. So I am excited about presenting. Any other questions or anything before I get in? Sherry, are we good?
We're good to go. Show us what you got.
Okay. It's not apps that are making us better with our time management. And it's not because we need more hours in our day for better time management, but it's choosing self-management over time management. And what is self-management? Well, self-management is taking responsibility for your own behavior and well-being. I am going to cover 6 strategies. Now, I realize that there are thousands of time management strategies, but these are my favorite 6. A few years back, I was contacted by an architect who asked me if I would work with her on time management strategies. And some of the strategies I'm sharing with you today, I shared with her. And I feel like these are foundational to helping us manage ourselves better. I do want to thank Sherry, my moderator. I want to thank Chase at the University of Arkansas for this opportunity, and for Sebastian, the tech guy, for always making speakers look good. Let's start with habits. I do a lot around time management, and I think that we have to learn to manage ourselves and we have to consider habits. Motivation gets you started, but good habits really keep you going. So, Duke University has said of our daily behaviors, 43% of them are habits. That means that we're just on autopilot. And what happens is they've even done research on rats, their brain shuts off during a habit. And it's happening to humans when we're just going through our day and not even paying attention and being aware of our habits. Our brain really is shutting off. So I want to challenge you tomorrow when you get up that you engage and that you think, oh, that is a habit. What am I doing that is just a habit? Now, MIT has found that there is a neurological process to every habit. So every habit has a cue, which we can also say is the trigger, a routine, and a reward. This is for every habit. If you want more information, Charles Duhigg a few years ago wrote a great book. There's a lot of research that's taking place on habits, and his book is called The Power of Habit. Now, the interesting thing about habits, if you're thinking, well, I have trouble with habits, maybe it's because you thought it was only 21 days. It's not 21 days to create or get rid of a habit. The research shows it's more like 66 days. And exercising can take up to 21 days. So next time that you want to get rid of a habit or you want to start with a habit, think of the 66 to 91 days. Now, James Clear is one of my favorite people, and he's written a book called Atomic Habits. And he tells the story of years ago, he had a girlfriend, and her first day of high school, the teacher said, hey, we're going to go around the room. Everyone's going to say what their name is. They went around the room. Everyone said what their name is. And he said, okay, raise your hand if you can tell me who everyone's name is. And so his girlfriend raised her hand. She went around the room. She got all the names right. And the guy next to her is like, I didn't even know your name. She tells James Clear, she says, I'm the type of person who remembers people's names. And so what we want to do is we want to have this incredible identity. And so he's created this layers of behavior change. Now we want to focus on our identity, where we say, I'm the type of person who, and then you would fill in the blank. If you focus on your performance are the actions that you take. What do you do? The processes. Like if you look at this example, it's basically saying, I can do 100 push-ups in a row. So we don't want to focus on our performance. That's not internal and that's not changing us. But we want to focus on our identity, where we say, I'm the type of person that, and you fill in the blank. You also don't want to focus on your appearance, what you get. That's the outcomes, the way the world perceives you. So what you have to do is you want to make your habits so easy that you can't say no. The first thing that you're going to do is you're going to decide the person that you want to be. Years ago, before I even knew this research, I said, I'm the type of person that gets up really early. And I didn't get up early, but I started to just one day a week. And then I went to 2 days a week. And now I get up early all the time. So you first want to decide the person, and then you want to prove it to yourself with small wins. So you want to make those habits, just like I said, so easy you can't say no. So an example, let's say you want to lose weight. You would say, I'm the type of person that moves every day. And you would start counting your steps and maybe get an Apple Watch or a pedometer. If you want to become a better writer, I'm the type of person who writes 1,000 words a day. A small win, you're just writing one paragraph. each day of the week. And when we think of habits, it's important for us to reframe, not just thinking of changing a bad habit, but what it is we're actually replacing that bad habit for a really good habit. And this is where this layers of behavior change comes in for us intrinsically owning our identity. I love habits for this. So there's this really cool thing called the Keystone Habit, and they have more power than the other habits, and it creates this domino effect. So if you were a kid and you stacked up the dominoes, that first domino knocked all those other dominoes over. Well, that first domino, that's the keystone. And what that does, as James Clear says, it's a behavior or routine that naturally pulls the rest of your life in order. So what's a keystone habit? Well, research has shown that it's exercise. You decide that you want to exercise. You begin to get up early. You're like, I feel like I have more energy. I feel like I'm more productive. I feel like I'm accomplishing more. People are starting to notice. They're like, what's going on with you? You just look so much better. You're like, I'm exercising. Your boss says, you seem to have more energy. You're like, I'm exercising. Now, I think exercising is critical, but as a former professional organizer, I also think that organization can be a keystone habit. Because when we're organized, we can find what we need, when we need it. We're not paying late fees. We know where our keys are in our cell phone. I even had someone that did group coaching that said to me, I think having a budget is a keystone habit, and how that habit affected all the other habits. That's the keystone, affecting all those other habits and having more power, that first domino. Talk about habits, got to talk about the morning routine. So what's your morning routine? Well, they surveyed over 5,000 people that were very successful and said, tell us your secrets. What did you do? What made you successful? And on the list was making your bed. It's the first task of the day. It's manageable. It shows that you care about the little things. Making your bed, believe it or not, is correlated with greater productivity and a sense of well-being. And I can tell you, as a former professional organizer, I have been in hundreds of homes, and seeing whether people made their bed or not, it might sound strange, I know, but it made a difference, I would tell you, and I could see it that little bit even in my clients' lives. Decision fatigue. This fits into habits. Well, Steve Jobs, he understood this decision fatigue. He took Apple, that was a company of over 300 products, and he's like, okay, we're going to simplify and we're going to focus on quality and less, to like 10 to 15 products. We all day long have so many decisions to make. We get up in the morning. What do we wear? What do we eat? What time do we have to be at that meeting? Are we taking our kids to school, or is someone else? What, do we make our bed? Do we not make our bed? All day long. I want to encourage you to lessen the decision fatigue by really grasping on to some simple concepts, just like Steve Jobs did. I believe that less is more. And even for himself, he had what's called a capsule wardrobe. And so that means that he didn't have a ton of clothes probably. Look what he usually wore. He wore jeans and a black shirt, because he said about himself, I don't want to have to make a decision on what I'm wearing. And even like cereal choices for our kids, we're giving our kids way, way too many choices. Think about for ourselves, way too many choices, and then decision fatigue sets in. What is your workout routine? What are you doing? Well, I think it's important to actually have a workout routine. Years ago, I had a client and she said, my husband and I joined a gym. She said, we're going to go every day. And I said, nah, you're probably not. I said, but if you commit just baby steps to like 1 or 2 days, if you commit to that, then I think you're more likely to do that and have that as a habit. Now, I don't want us to have the all or nothing. So if you get into exercise and you're like, oh, I missed a few days or I missed a week, I'm not even going to do it. We don't want to go there. We want to just start back, just get back on it and just say, okay, I'm just going to do one day. Now, if you decide to do it and you're an early morning person that works out, what I would suggest and encourage you that makes it easier is lay your clothes out the night before and then immediately put them on when you get up. You're more apt to go work out. What's the end of the work routine? Well, the end of the work routine is where we clear off our desk and we tidy it up, and then we also review our calendar for the next day. What important meetings do we have? What is going on the next day? What projects are we working on? So reviewing your calendar and just cleaning up your desk at the end of the workday. I work from home and I do this every day. And your night routine. So lastly, when we end on habits, people a lot of times don't think about their night routine. Oh my goodness, this is so critical. So Julie Morgenstern says, we want to view sleep as the start of the next day, not the end of the current day. We a lot of times look at sleep and we're like, oh, it's the end of the day. No. If you don't take anything else away from today, when you lay your head on the pillow, that you need to be thinking, this is for tomorrow. This is what gives me energy. This is what makes me productive. This is what keeps me focused and keeps the distractions away, is that I have good sleep, not the end of the day, but the beginning of the next day. And the National Sleep Foundation, they recommend 7 to 9 hours of sleep. And women, we need 30 more minutes than the men. And watch out for the black holes. What are they? Well, they're Netflix, they're Amazon Prime, they're social media, those things where you are looking at devices or watching TV, because they just suck you in and then an hour's gone and you're like, oh, I should have been in bed. Because what's happening if you don't turn your digital devices off 1 hour prior to bedtime, then it suppresses the melatonin. And the melatonin is the hormone that regulates our sleep-wake cycle. So 1 hour before you go to bed, turn off those digital devices. All right, the second strategy is energy management, and it's by the Tony Schwartz Project. And wow, I've been doing this, and this was such an awesome reframe. So time is 168 hours in the week. We all have that. Everyone on this call has 168 hours in the week. But your energy, now if you're talking your energy, that's different, because our energy is renewable and expandable. That means that you can do something about it. You can change. So he's identified 4 areas. He's identified your physical, your emotional, your mental, and your spiritual. And I'm going to go into each of these. Our physical. So what is that? It's the foundation. It's what we eat. What are we drinking? I drink a lot of water and try to eat healthy. We talked earlier about exercising and bringing in that keystone habit that affects all those other habits. And then sleep, the importance of sleep, as I mentioned earlier. Several years ago, Ariana Huffington with the Huffington Post ended up collapsing at her desk when she was working. And she went from doctor to doctor. And finally, she had a doctor that said, Ariana, you're exhausted. You're burning the candle at both ends. This is not good for you. You aren't sleeping. And she learned the importance of sleep. And out of that came a great book called Sleep Revolution. She is a huge advocate for sleep. And my whole attitude towards sleep has changed. It is a great thing that we need to grab hold of. When are you at your best? I ask clients that often. Know your own energy level. Okay, so I'm an early morning girl. I get up really early, but I can't assume that everyone works really early in the morning. Some of you might like 10 a.m. Some of you might like 3 a.m. However, NAPO, the association that I belong to, says that 64% of workers are most productive from 8 a.m. to noon. From 8 a.m. to noon. And you just have to know, though, when your own energy level is, when you can tackle those big projects or maybe have those crucial conversations. The next area is emotional. I love this one. So he worked a lot with CEOs, and he covered three areas with them. And he said, if you want to raise your emotional energy, so this is all about how we can work with our own energy management. We covered the physical. Now we're into this emotional. He said, if you want to raise your emotional energy, you need to show appreciation. You need to show appreciation to your admin assistants, to your coworkers, to your spouse, to your neighbors, to your friends. Begin to have a reframe. Begin to tell people that you appreciate them. The second thing he did is he taught them how to do breathing, deep abdominal breaths. I actually did that before I got on this call. What it does, it turns off fight or flight and it induces relaxation. So before you have a critical conversation, before maybe you would have to hire or fire someone, before you give a presentation, whatever it is, do those deep abdominal breaths. And then the last one is he said, we want to change our story from the negative to the positive. So this is a picture of my husband with my daughter. And for those of you that aren't familiar with the Enneagram, he's an Enneagram type 6, and they have anxiety. Their worst case scenario, they're the loyalist. We love our 6s. Over half the population are Enneagram 6s, and we love them, and I love my husband. However, he grew up in Northwest Arkansas, pretty poor, with alcoholic parents. And he had a bad story. And so for many years of our marriage, he told me how hard it was as the oldest of 6. But I've noticed that his story has changed. And he said, you know what? I knew that when I got off the bus, I had a home to go to. I knew that my parents loved me. So I want to encourage you to change your story from the negative to the positive, and only you can do that to raise your emotional energy. The next one is our mental energy, the focus. How do we reduce the distractions and the interruptions? Well, I think it's important to just let your phone go to voicemail. Do we need to check email all day long? I don't think so. Set certain times. There's been very successful people that are like, I only check it 2 or 3 times a day. We're checking it all the time. This is distracting. Maybe we need to physically get up and close the door to our office. Maybe if we're working from home, close the bedroom door. And my favorite thing that was taught by Lisa Montanaro, who's in my industry, who was a previous attorney, says we could do a counter offer. Now, I know this might not work for everyone. I love it and I use it. If you're asked to participate in a meeting on a Tuesday, maybe you could say, you know what, Tuesday doesn't work for me, but Thursday works well for me. So you haven't completely said no, but you've said what worked well and better for you. And that's called a counter offer. And the fourth piece of the energy management is the spiritual, and it's got 2 pieces to it. It has our core values. I think it's important, yes, we need to know what our own company's core values are, but what about your personal core values? I actually blogged on this for this month, helping people find and discover their own personal core values. So that's your guiding principles. Those values helping you to make decisions, things that you won't compromise on, and that help to strengthen your boundaries. So I'm a 1 with a wing of a 2. For those of you that understand the Enneagram, the 2 is the helper, the giver. I had a very unhealthy 2 until I discovered my core values. And when I did, I have great boundaries in place for me. Now, the University of Arkansas has 4 core values: curiosity, creativity, character, and our shared humanity. Walmart, our largest retailer in the world, has 3 core values: So when you're discovering your own core values, I really suggest and encourage you to discover 3 to 5, no more than 5. And our purpose. As Mark Twain says, there's 2 important days in your life: the day you were born and the day you found out why. And if you want to know more about that, read anything by Simon Sinek. Read the book or his TED Talk, Start with Why. Now, he doesn't tell you how to find your purpose, but he tells you the importance of knowing your purpose. All right, our third strategy is called time blocking. Gary Keller wrote a book called The One Thing. A few years ago, I had a client and she said to me, I got accepted into the University of Arkansas Law School. And she said, they have a lot of required reading before the first day of class. And she said, I'm reading every morning from 8 to 10. She said, is that time blocking? I said, that's time blocking. That's exactly what that is. So time blocking is making an appointment with yourself on the calendar to get a very specific task completed. So I work for myself. As an example, for me, I do my financials, my QuickBooks, I invoice clients. I used to think, oh, it'll just take 30 minutes or it'll take an hour. And I found that it was like 2 hours later. So being able to put that on your calendar and block that time off is super important. My favorite quote, one of them, is by John Maxwell. Learn to say no to the good, to say yes to the best. I think that we are saying yes to way too many things that we should be saying no to. Even this morning, I decided that I was saying no to something that would have been big for 2021 for me. So you have to figure out what that is. And I know that it's been a really hard, challenging year for everyone, and we want to put 2020 aside, even though we still have a few months left in it. But even as you're thinking about 2021 and making your goals, maybe there's something you need to take off your calendar and not add onto your calendar. Maybe there's something that you need to say no to. So when we're talking about time blocking, it's important to time our activities and tasks. There's a discrepancy between how long our tasks really take to complete and how long you think they take. Just the example that I gave you over QuickBooks, even something from home. Let's just give a quick example. You're going to empty the dishwasher and you think it takes 15 minutes. Well, honestly, it takes like 2. And so you have to figure out, in order to time block, you really have to discover and know, especially if it's a repeated project or a thing, an item, or an agenda that you do often, then you should be able to narrow that down to say, okay, I know that this typically takes me 45 minutes to complete. What do you time block? He says you time block your planning time. A lot of times, Friday afternoons are good times to plan for the next week. Or you can do monthly planning time. I love doing yearly at the end of December, really planning out for the new year. What else do you block? Your one thing. I encourage you, when you wake up, that you know 1 to 2 things that you have to accomplish today. If you don't get anything else done, what are the 1 or 2 things that you're like, okay, I just have to get these done? And then lastly, he says that you want to time block your time off. So this is my other daughter with her husband, and they are blocking, they're millennials, and they are blocking their vacation. They are making sure. And I want to encourage you to schedule that vacation. You have to block it off on the calendar, or it probably won't happen. The Pomodoro method, the 4th strategy. And I use all these. So this is really cool. In the 80s, there was an Italian man, and he came up with the Pomodoro method. And Pomodoro in Italian is tomato. And he used a device similar, like a kitchen timer. It looked like this. And so this method helps overcome procrastination and multitasking. There's probably a lot of you on the call that you really struggle with procrastination and multitasking. I really encourage you to hang on to this one. And I use this a lot and share this in coaching. And I have a lot of clients who come back and they're like, that's really helping me. I've worked with a lot of attorneys. I've worked with all kinds of different entrepreneurs, and they'll come back. That there's kind of a caveat I want to explain. So what it does, it maintains your focus because it limits the length of time you're working. So you're not just sitting at your desk and an hour and a half or 3 hours has happened and you're still working. It doesn't work like that. It ensures restorative breaks from your effort because there's going to be a break during each Pomodoro. And how it works is that you're going to decide on a task. You want to eliminate the distractions, as we mentioned earlier. You might need to close your door. You might need to tell your kids if you're working from home, or your husband, my husband's retired, I have to tell him. Figure out how you can eliminate your phone to voicemail, set notifications for text, whatever you need to do to reduce the distractions. Then what you're going to do is you're going to set a timer. So when he did the Pomodoro method, he set it, you'll see it set on 25, and that was a Pomodoro. So you'll work for 25 minutes and you'll take a 5-minute break, and you'll work for 25 minutes and you'll take a 5-minute break. You'll work for 25 minutes and you'll take a 5-minute break. And on the 4th Pomodoro, you will again work for 25 minutes, but you'll take a 30-minute break. So I'm often asked, so what do you do during your 5 minutes? Well, I work from home, so it's awesome. I sometimes just go out on my deck for a moment, or I go get water or whatever, but I come back and then I start reworking. Now, it's not stuck that you have to do the 25 minutes. What I suggest to you is just play with it. Start with 25 minutes, and if you're not distracted and you can stay with it and it works, then go for 40 or 45, whatever works for you. But don't forget to take that 5-minute break and then another 5 minutes. So usually you would do 4 Pomodoros and complete that before you take your 30-minute break. I mentioned that I'm a professional organizer. Used to be, don't do that anymore in my previous life. However, I think this is one of the greatest quotes. Now, I can't teach you time management without us talking about the digital clutter and the physical clutter, because I think that it really goes hand in hand, is affecting our productivity and important for our time management. This is by far, she's actually coined this is by far the best definition I've ever seen of clutter. She's in my industry. Clutter is postponed decisions. So whether it's a stack of papers that's on your desk, you're like, I haven't decided, what do I need to do with those? Whether you went to the mailbox and it's the brochures, we have all those campaign mailings we're getting now. Maybe some of you are still getting bills. It's all that. Maybe it's in your closet and it's stuff that's on your floor that you haven't decided what to do. So I was a professional organizer. People ask me to declutter their physical workspace. And research shows that there is a huge correlation between productivity and physical clutter. I'm sorry, it's just true. It just is. A lot of people are like, no, I love a desk that's all over the place. And that's great with your stuff if you can find what you need when you need it. So of course, there's no judgment, but as long as you can find what you need when you need it. There are benefits to having an organized office. You're not buying more supplies. I've seen more people buy more scissors and tape and Post-its. You know where your keys, your cell phone is. You're on time for appointments and meetings. So the physical clutter in the workspace is the paperwork on your desk, the files on your desk, maybe old coffee cups. In your home, it can be your kitchen counters that are filled with stuff. But I want you to think beyond the physical clutter. What about the digital clutter? What about the emails that you haven't deleted? What about you haven't even read them or responded to them? What about looking at your phone and it's filled with text or voicemails or just pictures? We have pictures after pictures. I just recently did a photo album for my grandkids and took some of them off the smartphone. So when you're talking your space, you might say, well, that's great, but where do I begin? Well, first, you have to decide to take action. You have to begin with the end in mind. You decide to take action. Sorry, I'm jumping ahead of myself. Like the Nike thing, you just have to do it. And then begin with the end in mind. I love this. It's a Covey principle. And sometimes I think it's important, just even if you close your eyes and you envision your physical workspace cleared and decluttered, where you can find exactly what you need. Or sometimes it could be that you want to write a book. Maybe you need to begin with the end in mind and close your eyes and envisioning turning in the manuscript, or actually holding your physical book when you begin with the end in mind. And then we go back to time block it. If you decide to clear your desk, then you're going to have to put it on the calendar. Okay, this Thursday from 8 to 9 a.m., I'm going to block it on the calendar and I'm going to work on clearing my desk. And then break it into small projects. Start with a drawer or a pencil or a caddy. Start small. I blogged on that, baby steps. People want to go big. And when we go big, we go home and it doesn't work and people fall apart. I want to encourage you to just start small. Start where you are. Just take one baby step at a time. And then lastly, the last and one of my favorite is white space. So what is this? It's a term from the art and design world. Your eyes are drawn to pages, ads with less text and more space around the words. As you see, it's easy to read white space. It's easy. It gives your eye a place to rest. Now, when we're talking white space, you can have the literal and you can have the figurative. So the literal is maybe having less on your walls in your office space or your home or a classroom, or just keeping flat surfaces and counters clear. But what I want to focus on is the figurative. And that's where you need more space in your life that isn't occupied with commitments. Stopping and taking a breath. Allowing yourself just to slow down, just to rest and reflect. We don't do enough reflection in America. We need to reflect. Having nothing on your schedule. What would that look like? A quiet silence, a cool, dark night, an open field. Maybe just go into a coffee shop and sitting in the corner and just not looking at your smartphone, not looking at a device, not doing anything, and just having some time to yourself. So why do we need white space? Well, we're living in this crazy busy world and we're inundated with tons of technology. We're inundated with the physical, the digital, even now so much mental clutter, but nothing is making us happier or healthier, I don't believe. And so I encourage you to learn to create some white space in your life. So what's my white space? Well, my white space is anything outside. My husband and I love walking. And the interesting thing is research shows that 5 or more minutes outside improves your mood, your motivation, and your self-esteem. So what does your white space look like? I want to challenge you to create some white space in your life. Maybe it can be literal in your home or office, or maybe it's figurative, nothing on your calendar for a day. This is how you can connect with me. Let's make it count by turning our time management into self-management to make the most of every day, by challenging yourself to be aware of your current habits. Wake up tomorrow, think about that 43% of our daily behaviors, throw in a keystone habit that has much more impact than the other habits, challenge yourself to be aware of your current habits, reframe time management into energy management, and only you can do that. Energy management is renewable and expandable. Begin time blocking or use the Pomodoro method. Start decluttering. And lastly, I encourage you to incorporate some white space into your life. Thank you, Sherry. Thank you, Chase.
Thank you, Laurie. We are so glad to have you this afternoon. I have a couple questions, if you could hang tight with us a moment. One came in from Oxford, Mississippi. With most of us working at home now, with most of us working from home now, do you have any tips on how to balance the work life and home life? This person feels like she's constantly putting work first.
Yeah.
Any tips for that?
Yeah. Great question. And it's interesting. It's actually, so I do a lot around work-life integration. And especially now during COVID, those areas you cannot keep separate, as we know. Like we're not driving into an office. So many of us aren't. And I work from home, but most of us aren't driving off. And I even said before that it really is about work-life integration. I'm happy if she'll email me to share a tool with her specifically on that for her to create for herself, like find her focus areas on what she needs to do. It basically gives you, it's a coaching tool that gives you kind of a meta view of your life where you can stand back. And I think part of it is just also having really good boundaries where you're able, a lot of us as women, especially women, some men struggle with this, but I would definitely say women, we say yes to too many things, and being able to say no, maybe I don't need to be on that board. Maybe I don't need to be the homeroom mom or the soccer mom or whatever it is. And so figuring that out, because it's a challenge for sure.
Wonderful. Actually, I've had several people comment they want that tool as well. So actually, Chase, will you put that on your list so that when you send out the recordings, you can include Laurie's tool? Because we all need to get better on time management. I'm kind of the type A person, so I'm always wanting to learn new tips and tricks for sure. We had another question come in. If you're a manager or a leader, how do you support and educate your team on better time management without seeming like you're micromanaging them or that you're nagging them? Because as we know, there's all personalities in workspaces, and some aren't type A like me. And so how would you guide us in managing that?
Yeah, so I think what's really important, and I get it, for those of you that know anything about the Enneagram, I'm a type 1, so I get what you're saying, Sherry, as well. You don't want to come from a judgy place, and you don't want to come for that place. It's different for everyone, especially if you have someone that's creative. And so that's why even with these strategies that I presented today, maybe you sharing them with your team and saying, hey, have you ever thought about the Pomodoro method, and explaining that. Now, you cannot assume for your team, because I've learned this with my coaching clients, that what works for me might not work for them. I didn't even cover so many strategies that I cover when I do coaching. And I often ask at the end, okay, what resonated with you? So I would suggest that they take some of these and say, hey, have you ever thought about time blocking? Maybe being the coach for them and sharing some of these strategies and saying, is this something that would work for you, but not to assume that if it works for one person, it's going to work for another one.
Okay, that's great. Actually, at a previous job I had, our president was a big believer in time blocking. And so every morning from 8 to 9, we had to block out time. And that was our quiet time. That was our time to plan for the next day or the next week. And we could not make phone calls. We couldn't email anybody in the building because that was the quiet 1 hour time. And that was so beneficial for sure. Another question that came in is, how do I set parameters if a meeting runs too long? So, we get in these back-to-back meetings or back-to-back Zoom calls. How would you respectfully set a parameter for that?
Yeah, so it kind of depends on if are you a participant or would you be the one that is leading the meeting? Because I think it's going to make a difference. If you're a participant and you're able to say or you have good rapport with your boss or whatever, you might just have to say, "Hey, I'm not getting my work done because of these meetings." If you talk to Mark Cuban says, "I don't do meetings." I mean, I worked at a university and it was meetings all the time and I never got anything done. I had to tell my professor that I worked with, "Hey, I can't participate in this." And I think we can do things and we can have those conversations, crucial conversations, awesome book. We can have those conversations. We have to do it diplomatically. And we can say it. And if you're obviously the boss and you've gone over, you need to apologize to your team. I think there's so much fluff in meetings. I think we can do things so much more succinctly than we do in 20 minutes instead of 40 minutes or whatever.
I totally agree. And my opinion is you have to have an agenda, so then you stay on task, and keep it to the 20 minutes instead of the fluff, for sure.
Yes,
Yeah,
great
for
point. And
sure.
I didn't cover this, but I just want to share this really quickly for whoever asked about the team and the strategies or whatever, for anyone out there. Also, look at Tony Robbins with time chunking. So I just had a couple, I do couples coaching and the husband and wife. That was something that they loved. I couldn't cover everything today in the 35 or 40 minutes, but check out time chunking as well.
Time chunking. Okay, got it. We will do that. Um, Another thing that's come up is that I learned early on to use the Franklin Covey planner, and you had mentioned Covey's way of doing things earlier in your presentation. Do you have a favorite planner or a favorite app that you use, personally and or professionally?
Yeah, so I'm older, but I love Planner Pad. It's been a really good. However, I have a lot of my clients that like Michael Hyatt's. He's got a specific planner, and I've had several people. I have not checked it out. That might be something else. I have just for years used Planner Pad, and it just works for me. I do some things on my phone. However, I'm older and I love writing down. And so I will write in a calendar and just also keep track of what is on and a reframe instead of a to do list. Think of it as your success list and not a to do list, but a success list.
I love those little words that you're using to set us up to succeed, because that's what we need to do. It's that I teach my daughter, you've got to do that self-talk, so that you can be positive and know you're going to do it. So that's important, for sure. Well, Laura, you have taught us so many amazing methods. Another thing that we would love for you to share with Chase is your PowerPoint deck, so we can go back and study those and just um, be able to remember those things. One of my favorite was the Pomodoro method. I am going to use that because I sometimes that multitasking, I just start spinning. And instead of being able to focus and get things done and check it off my list, I just spin and spin.
Yeah, that's a good one. And just change the time. If you want to work a little less than 25 minutes, or if you want to work more than 25 minutes. Yeah, it's a good one to try out for sure.
Wonderful. And be sure to look in the chat. Becca's popped in a few resources so you can check it out. Well, Lori, thank you again for spending your time with us. We'll look you up on social media and on your website, but we really, truly appreciate your time.
Thank you for moderating. Y'all have a great
Oh,
day.
you too. One thing I had found a quote from Benjamin Franklin, and that is, lost time is never found again. So using some of Laurie's strategies will help us just be more productive and better in what we do. So this concludes our wonderful virtual meeting conference. Thank you to the Walton Conference Hub. your vision in doing this has allowed so many of us to receive amazing education and see new and different speakers. As a meeting planner, I'm always looking for speakers in the area and speakers on different topics, and this certainly is a good takeaway. You've inspired me to step outside the zone and do a virtual meeting. It's not scary with Avad 3's technical expertise. They certainly led us through this and brought comfort and calmness to doing this, and that's appreciated. So just to go over a few housekeeping things, be watching out for your survey. The Walton Conference Hub will send that out to you. That will include, or the email will include the survey, the presentations that have been recorded, for example, Laurie's PowerPoint, and several other pieces of information. And then that way you can share it with your colleagues. Like Laurie had said, you know, here's some time management ideas. Instead of going to them one-on-one, you can share it with your whole team. So that's exciting for sure. I am inspired, and I have got so many nuggets from this conference, and I hope that you all have as well. Take away things that you loved about the conference, whether it's content or how the actual Zoom experience went. I want to thank the Walton Conference Hub. I want to thank the Arkansas Hospitality Association, and I want to thank Avad 3 for making this possible. I have a big shout out as well. As meeting professionals, we're behind the scenes normally. So I want to thank Chase Smith, Becca Clifton, Shannon Bullock, and Rebecca Gilbo for all of their hard work, their organization, their creativity, their perseverance to make this happen. So that will also be included on the email that is sent out by the Walton Conference Hub, so that you can reach out to any of them, because they've had lessons learned and they've had success stories putting this event together. And so use them. When you get to a client or to your organization that wants to do this, use them. They'll be able to help guide you a little bit more. So I am signing off from the Walton Conference Hub in Fayetteville, Arkansas. Again, thank you for your time and have a great rest of your day.
Keep on knocking doors, go place to place looking for